We are but 39 days, I believe, from the Electronic Triple 2016. E3 is approaching. Let's have a little chat about it. Let's do an update. I kind of feel like we should do this every week until E3 starts. Okay. We had a couple of news thingies happen this past week. A bunch of things happened over the past couple of months, actually, is that Nintendo sort of slowly crept out of E3 a couple of years ago. They don't do their press conference anymore. Did their Nintendo, their event, and then their Direct, and then the Treehouse stuff, which seemed to be very successful, I guess. EA have decided to pull out completely. Activision have decided to do their own thing as well. Everyone's kind of like doing their own off-site thing, like Devolver. I guess Devolver was the first person to do that. Disney as well won't be there.
Devolver had a sick trailer park last year.
They did. 2 years running, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real good. You go play Hotline Miami in a
Airstreams
trailer.
are rad.
And then we just had news this week that Nintendo are only going to be showing one game, which is basically Zelda, right? It must be the Wii U.
I mean, what else do you need to show?
Yeah. So there will be no new Picross game, I guess, at E3 this year. What do you guys think about this? E3 has ebbed and flowed. It sort of got back to its roots in the past couple of years. There was that year at Santa Monica where they downsized and basically everyone thought that it was awful, and it ended up going back to the Moscone again. What do you think about an E3 without really much of a Nintendo presence at all, and EA and Activision, which basically takes up most of the South Hall, I think? Are you kind of a little bit down on it, Mike, or do you think it'll be all right?
I'm pretty down on it. I think a lot of us were pretty sure they were going to do something with the NX. And now it's delayed till 2017.
Yes.
At the very least, they said. And I'm a huge Zelda fan, and that's the one thing that they're doing that I'm really looking forward to. Well, it's one of the things they're doing that I'm really looking forward to, but I don't know. Unfortunately, I feel like in the past 4 or 5 years, Nintendo has been taking a back seat as it is to like everybody. I mean, Bethesda came out last year with their first press conference, and Fallout 4 showed was one of the cooler things we saw.
Bethesda's press conference last year was probably the best press conference of the weekend.
And they came out of nowhere, and I haven't been that excited about Nintendo at E3 in a long time, and I'm not crazy surprised by this. The more it sinks in, the more I'm just kind of feel like it's all of a piece. It makes sense.
What about yourself, Aaron?
I think you have to separate as a game journalist E3 the location with E3 the what we learn.
Right.
E3 the location has ebbed and flowed over the years, but to be honest, the show floor is probably the worst place to experience a game for a gamer. Like, as a gamer, you want to be in a quiet living room with your surround sound system and a controller and just be engaged, right?
It's a fair point. Like, I had a dream my entire life that, like, I would love to go to E3 some year, right? And the reality is that, like, it's great to go, and every year it's like an absolute privilege to walk into that hall. But stuff like PAX is so much better for actually playing games.
Yeah.
Like, E3 is all business and massive lines, and you don't really get access to a lot of stuff.
So when you go there as a journalist, you would actually rather be in a quiet hotel room and be able to like experience the game as the developer intended it. Because nobody designs their game with like 1,000 people bumping into you and screaming and like lights flashing. It's really a hard way to engage with video games. So the content that's going to happen at E3 this year, I'm excited about. Like, we're going to get a lot of shooter sequels. We're going to maybe like, somewhere in the LA area have a playable version of Battlefield, hear about Titanfall 2, Dishonored sequel. I want to know where Mass Effect Andromeda is at.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can learn. And if I'm sitting at a computer and watching a live stream or in a hotel room, I don't care how I get that information. That's what makes me excited as a gamer. And let's be honest, it's not open to the public, so most people don't walk around the show floor, really care about what happens on the show floor. Yeah,
like no matter what, the information is going to come out in its own way. And perhaps in a better way, because for the longest time, the Microsoft and Sony conferences would sort of cram in everyone else into there, and nobody had their own space to talk about it. Whereas now we'll hopefully have it like sort of petered out across the whole week. Yeah, you're right. Like, EA are going to show off all their stuff like they always do. Bethesda are going to do their own thing as well. So it's interesting. Yeah, a couple of people in the chat talking about how, Comic-Con, same thing kind of happening. Companies are avoiding these big things, or at least doing their own thing. Diablos X saying, even Square Enix had their thing for Final Fantasy, and for everything else. So bit of a sea change. What are you looking forward to mostly, actually, Mike? Because Aaron's kind of talked about a bunch of things he's looking forward to.
I'm excited to see what Nintendo will show of Zelda, assuming it is Zelda. But I'm also excited to see more of Dishonored 2. I really like Dishonored. Game Informer had their cover story today, and I haven't gotten the chance to look at it, but I'm really excited to read through that because I really like Dishonored the first one. I know you've been playing it recently too, Aaron, and I really am interested to see what they do with Emily, because she was a cool character in the first game, and now that she's kind of usurping Corvo's role as the protagonist, or as one of the protagonists, I forget what the specifics are. That's probably the one I'm looking forward to most, to see what they do with that, what Arcane does with that, because Arcane is such a talented studio, and they did such a great job kind of bringing this new IP out that was kind of weird when we first saw it, and it was this person like teleporting around. It was like Tracer, like you said, and now we are kind of on the cusp of the sequel, and I'm hoping they can follow through with it.
I'm very much looking forward to sort of what the console manufacturers have to say about, I guess, PlayStation with the Neo, the 4.5. I want to see PlayStation VR, if we've got any like bundles and prices and stuff like that. And then it'll be interesting to see if Microsoft, flinch in relation to that as well. Do they get off their arses and talk about doing the same thing? Do they double down on it? Do they make a whole new type of Xbox perhaps? Do they, that space between consoles and PC that they keep on closing, do they sort of merge those two things now that Windows 10 has kind of gone across the board? I'm kind of interested in that.
One of the things that I would like to see people talk about, which is just quality of life, is the cross-play idea.
For a second I thought you said lacrosse play. Did you hear that as well?
Yeah, I always hear lacrosse.
The sweet pears and apples.
It's all that lacrosse.
You hear the crowd cheering permanently.
Cross-play, end of fiefdoms, get rid of it. I want to play with whoever on whatever. If I'm on my PC at night and I want to play with my friend who's on Xbox One or PS4, I can't tell you how many times I've been isolated from my friends just because we had different consoles and different systems, or your ability to play the same game on multiple platforms. Just that sort of freedom of choice could be such a good quality of life improvement for gamers.
Yeah.
If they can work it out.
That pushes and pulls in so many directions, because sometimes you don't buy a game because you're like, oh, my friends won't get it on that platform, so I won't. I'll wait and get it here. Or maybe I'll buy the other console. But then sometimes it actually helps them, because you're like, oh, my friend has that console, so I better get that console so that we're all working in the same sort of ecosystem. But you're right, there is definitely a push towards that. I mean, Rocket League, is now across the board. So,
and also late in the life cycle of games, when player populations dwindle, there can be that effect where they get too low and then it just tanks because there isn't enough people to play.
Titanfall.
So you consolidate all those people into one pool, and suddenly you've got multiplayer games that have much greater longevity because you can maintain that community for a longer period of time.
Yeah, there we go. I guess we'll have more updates in the coming weeks. Let us know, are you excited for E3? What are some of the announcements you're looking forward to more than anything else? Stick them down there in the comments below.